Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Alex Chisnell here at the Festival of Startups. We are week 2, day 3, and I am joined by Miles Croft. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, Alex. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you doing?
Good. I'm very well, thank you. Very well.
So we're only about 8 miles away, I think. I'm in Poole and you're in Bournemouth.
Yeah, over in Lansdowne. Very close. If only we could do this in person, eh?
Yeah, I know. We should be, but we're not.
Yeah.
But then we did get a little bit of good news from our glorious leader the other evening. Potentially indoor events.
I'm optimistic. Yeah. I think they're saying we're going to be all right by this summer, and I'm hoping so. I just need to get back in the pub. I miss a real pint. That's the thing I need the most.
It's coming. I think it's coming.
It
again.
is.
You're just not allowed to go with anybody else you know, by the sound of it.
Yeah. It's fine. I've got my own.
Seeing your end of the corner is fine.
Yeah.
It's better than being at home all the time. So here we are, as I say, Miles Croft, prospecting coach for Quo Star in Bournemouth in the UK. As I say, I'm here in Poole in Dorset. Let us know where you are. Let us know where you are tuning in from today, folks. You've got a couple of buttons that I'm going to let you know about. So right-hand side of the screen, you've got a chat function right down towards the bottom, and you've also got a questions tab. So look, as Miles said, if we're at a live event, we'd be chatting, we'd be connecting. So use the chat button. There's a live chat function there. Comment during the course of all of the webinars. Connect, so pop in your LinkedIn profile. I've been doing that. Paul is straight on it. There you go, from Derbyshire. Looking forward to today's sessions. I know you were on last night's late session, Paola, as well, with me and Laura De Benedetto, who was in Maui. Little bit different from the view I'm looking out at today in
Maui,
sunny Dorset.
It's not nice here at the moment, is it?
Not today.
It's very grey. No.
But I just hosted a webinar, and it's literally the same from Glasgow all the way down, I think, to Kent. So boom, to the UK. But yeah, look, use the live chat function. Everybody else join in as well, along with Paola. Let us know where you are, what you're up to. And you've also got just below that a questions tab, so you can post questions up as we go through today. Terry is joining us as well. How you doing, Terry? I know Terry is down in dark and deepest Sussex, joining us today. So thank you for joining us as well. You've also got down the bottom in the middle of your screen some tabs, and you've got this is a new platform for me as well. So look, you can send up all sorts of emojis as well, folks. So you can get super interactive on this AirMeet platform, so feel free to do so. Lucy, not far from us in Devon.
Nice.
So thanks for joining us as well, Lucy, and everybody else. I can see people are joining us by the second as they're getting the notification to join us today. So yeah, there we go. More and more people joining us. Great. So look, here we are today, and we are going to be bringing this live webinar to you. About 20-30 minutes, I think you were saying, Miles. Is that right?
Yep. 20 minutes.
Brilliant.
Should be around that mark.
Nice. So we are talking all about sales. About sales today. Looking forward to that. And we've got a bunch of other webinars. Just to frame it for you, we've got Jason Green talking about leading and managing remote teams at 2:00. And then I've got my good friend Sam Lahan, our former Virgin Startup Head of Funding, now working with Cass Business School and City University. We're talking social impact for startups. That's at 4 p.m. today as well. But before that, as I say, we've got Miles. We're talking sales masterclass today, from data building to digital marketing to telemarketing to video calls, making sure your sales approach is maximized for success. So look, without further ado, I'll let you bring up your slides and I'll let you take the lead, and I will be here the whole time, folks. So post up your questions, post up your comments, and take it away, sir.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Alex. Yeah, like Alex said, please post comments. I would want this to be interactive if we were there in real life, but obviously we're not. But we've got this chat function, and you can raise your hand, you can ask questions. So So I kind of want this to be as interactive as possible. But what I'm here today to speak to you about, that Alex has very kindly asked me to come and discuss, is about how COVID has changed the way people buy business to business services. It's obviously been a tough year for a lot of people, and that's definitely salespeople included. But there are good things to take from the change as well. It's a bad situation, but we can make the most of it. So as Alex said, I'm Miles Croft. I'm an online sales trainer and author. I'll go into myself a little bit in a moment, but I also work as a salesperson. So I'm clicking on the wrong slide. Here we go. So for a start, who the hell is this guy? Why should you be listening to me? So the first thing is I am a salesperson, and I have been for years now. I've been working in loads of businesses, both big FTSE 100 companies right down to small startups and everything in between. So that's old and new companies, and it's been a lot of cold calling. And that's where most of my sales training comes from, is around cold calling, how to do it from a basic standpoint, and also how to push it forwards and do better from a more experienced standpoint. I'm not your conventional kick the door down salesman. I'm not the Wolf of Wall Street, buy till they die, scream down the phone, bully your prospects into buying. I'm more relationship consultative, just being their friend and giving them good advice, and actually helping them out. And I have personally found that in today's world, that seems to work better. Maybe people find it differently, let me know. But what I am secondly is, like I said, a sales trainer. So I help both new and experienced salespeople do better at what they do. More so on the new side, helping people who are coming into sales, who've maybe started their own businesses or are about to start a job and just need a hand in knowing what the hell to do and how do you go about it. So I'm primarily on two platforms, one called LinkedIn Learning. If you go there, you can get a free month pass and you can watch all of my videos and other really good sales trainers on there. And also a platform called Udemy, where you can go and, again, try out whatever you want and buy a few courses. So cold calling is my main area. I've also got some about overcoming objections, selling to business leaders, starting out in your job in sales, and one of my latest courses is about selling under COVID. So this is perfect for me. And you can go and find that on Udemy today. And of course, I'm going to plug my own course. Of course, I'm going to say that if you use the code STARTUP, then you get it for a discount. I've put a QR code on there so that you guys can just follow that link straight there if you want to. And that will include the code. But otherwise, just go to Udemy, find that course, Selling Under COVID-19 Lockdown, buy it and type in startup, and you'll get it for $13.99 instead of its usual price. So what am I going to talk to you guys about today? So firstly, I'm going to have a look at what's actually changed in the market today and kind of the world from a selling standpoint, particularly in the B2B world. What are we dealing with today that we wouldn't have been dealing with this time last year? Then I'm going to look at how we can adapt to the market that we're in now and how we're going to actually get past this and do well, if not better, in the world that we now live in. I'm going to have a look at some of the new rules and techniques, some things that have worked for me, some things that haven't worked for me and I've had to learn from. So that's mainly around the rule part, but just how we can do well here. How to maintain some of those relationships as well, because that's a really tough thing that we're all dealing with at the moment, is we're struggling to maintain those relationships because we can't see people anymore. We can't go to the pub with them. We can't go to the cafe. We can't come in and meet them and all of their business peers. It's a tough time. Can't do our networking either. And then just a few final thoughts of my own that I can give to you guys to take away and hopefully do some good work with. So let's start with what's actually changed. The first one is obvious. Everyone's at home now. And some people are coming back into the office now and they are starting to adapt back to the old way of working. But what I'm finding is for the most part, people are working from home, and particularly those all important decision makers we need to be speaking to. Some businesses are really struggling, and that's a thing to be aware of because maybe your sales pipeline will be struggling because of that because people don't have that money anymore, and maybe it's just something you need to be conscious of. But not all doom and gloom. Some businesses are actually really flourishing. So I know a few businesses that have adapted really well. I know recruiters who have added on cleaning services. I know print companies that now make PPE stuff, and also just businesses that were already perfectly placed for them. I mean, Zoom is a perfect example of a company that's just absolutely skyrocketed, and their stocks have gone down a little bit since the vaccine came out, but I'm sure that they're going to stay a hell of a lot higher than they were again this time last year. So there are businesses that are doing well, and we need to be aware of that. So we cannot make assumptions. You can't just assume that a business is going to crash or they're doing really well. You need to actually speak to them and find out where they are so that you can change to that. So because of that, their priorities are going to have changed. Maybe it's now to survive when previously it was to grow, and maybe now it's to grow when previously it was simply to survive. And our products or services can have an effect on those. So we need to be aware of what people want now. Maybe they're going to target an entirely new market because a whole new market is growing massively, or maybe because the one they were targeting before has dropped hugely or disappeared entirely. It could be absolutely anything. So we need to be really conscious of that. So I wanted to run a quick poll, maybe just if you guys can comment in the live chat. Have your business priorities changed? Maybe it's your own business, or maybe you're selling for another business, or maybe you just work for one. But has your priorities changed? I can see Francis immediately saying yes, his has. I'm hoping to see if anybody else can chip in on whether theirs has, because I know that a lot of businesses have. No from Paul Smith. And do you mind, Paul, if you answer why it hasn't changed? Is that because the market you're in is still flourishing, or is it just because you're still cracking on as normal? Well, while we wait for Paul, we'll keep moving on. So if you have a long sales cycle, okay, so he's always seeking investment. Yes, focusing on new products. So for the most part, we've only got a few answers there, but it seems that people are changing. The poll is up now. So I'll let you guys answer that while we move on, and hopefully we can see how much it's changing. So for me in particular, on the product that I'm selling for a local business called QuoStar, it's a very long sales cycle. It's a very long decision people make, and it's a big effect to the business when you're looking at a business's IT in particular. So you need to be aware that if you have a long sales process, then maybe things will have changed, especially if you started speaking to them before the beginning of lockdown. Because like we said before, their priorities may have changed. Maybe they're targeting new businesses, so the product or service you provide won't have affected it, or may have. So you need to be aware of that. And finally, it's here to stay. All of these changes, there is a vaccine out. As I said at the beginning, I'm cautiously optimistic about that bringing the world back to normal. But all of these new practices that we've put in are absolutely here to stay. So I was reading this study very recently, saying what's the likelihood of the new go-to-market model, so that's using things like Zoom and catching people online, staying for the next 12 months. And they asked a bunch of people on April 28th, and for the most part, it seemed like people were saying it was somewhat likely that it was going to stay. Some of them were saying unlikely, but it seemed like people were sticking with it. But then if you ask people much closer to now, on August 11th, then it's absolutely very likely, or somewhat likely, that people are going to be sticking with the way they are now. So we can't just avoid these techniques now and just say, oh, well, it doesn't matter, the vaccine will be out soon, I can get back to normal. We need to adapt to this and keep it for good, because even once the vaccine's out, using Zoom calls will save huge amounts of time and cost and effort. You won't have to be driving and traveling around the country. We can just meet people on Zoom. You can do it all over the world. I used to sell to businesses in Canada. Obviously, I didn't go there. I just stayed in London. But the technology's there now to do that kind of stuff. So we need to be aware of that, adapt our skills now, and keep it moving forward. So how do we adapt? The first one is to re-qualify. You need to make sure that you're constantly re-qualifying all of your opportunities to make sure that they're still there. You need to make sure they still have the budget. The authority hasn't changed. The need in particular is still there. So they haven't been hit hard and they're not totally changing their focus. And you need to make sure the time is still there as well. We now need to call direct lines and mobiles because people are working from home. There's no point in calling reception. A lot of businesses do have good VoIP systems where you can be passed through to people at home. But for the most part, people have just changed over to their mobiles, or they've got their direct line coming through to their mobile now, or through to their laptop. So I do go into that in a bit more in a moment, but we need to be aware that the way we're contacting people has changed, and you do need to get in more directly. We also need to use video conferencing tools now. So meeting people in real life is just so much more effective. Again, I'll talk about that in a moment, but we need to get used to using these video conferencing tools as we are now. It's so much easier to get in front of the right people. And this one in particular, getting the stakeholders involved is easier over a Zoom call because it's less commitment. If you were to be doing, say, a demo, and you wanted to get more decision makers in the room, you wanted to get the CEO, for example, in the room as well, they're incredibly hard to book and get in a room in real life. But over Zoom or Teams or whatever you're using, it's less of a commitment. So you're more likely to get those people to decide to come along. And then you're in front of more stakeholders, so your chance of selling is going to be considerably higher. And make sure you understand their situation. Again, this is requalifying and making sure that you totally understand where they are, how they're doing, what their situation is, and whether or not they still need your services, or maybe they need it even more. But it's also just being understanding of the business. So there's a lot of redundancies, there's a lot of furloughs, there's a lot of bad situations as well as good. So you need to make sure that you understand their situation, and you treat them as you should. Also, we should be agile. That goes without saying. The most agile at the beginning of this lockdown were the ones who benefited the most. So you need to change your pitch and change your offering wherever you can. You need to make sure that you're staying up with the times, what your market wants, but also what your actual prospect themselves want. And you don't need to totally change your product and totally go from one industry to another, but you just need to tweak it. Just think about, what do my prospects want now, and can I provide those services to them? And you need to show your value. You are always showing your value anyway. Any salesperson worth their buck should always be able to show their value. But now it's become more than ever because businesses are more worried about spending their money, and cash has become a lot more valuable. So you need to show them why you're worth spending that money and why they're going to be better off after they've purchased your product. And you need to be drilling that point home even more. And do not let relationships diminish. So I have personally fallen short of this in one or two situations recently, but one of the main things I've been trying to do is just maintain those relationships. Because like I said, you can't go and meet these people anymore. You can't go to your networking events. You can't go for a coffee with them. You can't meet these people and keep that face-to-face relationship going. So we need to do everything we can. And be that booking regular calls or meeting them over Zoom meetings or whatever it is, you need to keep those relationships rolling. So what are some of the new rules that I have found to be in place? So I want to do another poll. Alex, if you could do another one. Is it okay to call people on their mobiles? So thank you. What do people think? This is a bit of a debated topic I found with other salespeople. If you're calling people on their mobiles, let's say it's a business mobile, it might be personal, you're not entirely sure. Do you guys consider it rude? Do you think that it's a bit too pushy? Do you think it's totally out of line to call people on their mobiles? What do people think? Yeah, if it's in their email signature, let's say that as well. Let's say in their email signature they've got the main office line, their direct desk line, and their mobile line as well. 91% yes, they do think it's okay. Good, because I've spoken to a lot of people who say that it's not okay. They're going, oh, it's too rude, it's too personal. But I think particularly in this time, it's incredibly important. You do need to be respectful and conscientious. When you're calling these people, they are at home. So you do need to say, is this a good time? Are you free to talk? But I, for the most part, think calling mobiles are okay. And like I said before, being conscientious from a business point of view is important as well. There are a lot of businesses out there that are struggling, but a lot of businesses that if your product or service is good, then you can help, and you can help mitigate those revenue losses and redundancies. And finally, is to be optimistic. You've got to find new markets, and maybe they're not doing as badly as predicted. So people are making the most of a bad situation. So some of these new techniques, there's calling people at home. Be aware, absolutely call their mobile if you have them. I think even if it was a personal mobile before, maybe before it would have been a bit too pushy. I think now it's fine because you don't know the situation. And if you call reception and they say, they're at home, then I personally vote feel free to call them. But always check, is it okay if I call you on this line? So like I say, check is a good time, and be aware you might get cut short. People are at home with their kids, you've got Amazon delivery drivers banging on the door. Anything could come up. Because people are at home, it's a totally different situation. But people are adapting the best they can. So just keep it in mind. Then you've got meeting prospects online. So that's both cold and also warm. I would say act the same as normal. As if you're meeting these people in real life, you don't want to be pretending it's different. So make sure you have your agenda. Make sure you're asking all of your questions. Have definitely open body language. Don't be all just... Make sure you're open and ready to chat as you would if you're meeting them in real life. Dress smart. Put on a shirt. I know everyone's working from home, but I've seen a lot of people just, maybe wearing a t-shirt and a hoodie is already pushing it, but wearing your PJs is not okay. And make sure you're talking less and listening more. The 80-20 rule, you've got to be listening to them, asking the right questions, and getting their responses back, because you're providing solutions to problems. You're not just peppering them with your pitch. And also, comms are tricky over video. So you've obviously got a slight internet lag. So usual sort of social cues are sometimes missed. So you've got to be extra careful that you're not interrupting them and talking over them and cutting them short, especially if there's a few people on the call all having a discussion. You just need to really be aware of that and give them plenty of talking space. And then finally is meeting in real life. Currently not possible, but we had the bit of time in the summer. This lockdown is hopefully about to end over the Christmas period. So there is still the opportunity to meet in real life, and a lot of people do want to meet in real life and get out of the office and see real faces. So it goes without saying, you got to keep it legal. You've got to think about what tier you're in, whether or not you can meet people, groups of 6, indoors, outdoors, all of that stuff. So only do what is legal within your local area. And be conscious of personal preferences. I know that a lot of people, they don't care about the virus. They're thinking, oh, it's fine. It's a bunch of rubbish. And some people are absolutely terrified of it and don't want to leave the house. So don't pressure people into meetings. Ask them what they want to do and what they're happy with, and whether or not they want to meet indoors or outdoors, whether or not they want to keep 2 meters or further apart. And make sure you come fully prepared. So make sure you have your mask and you have your sanitizer and you have your venue booking. Because like I say again, some people may not be comfortable and they want to be extra cautious. Some people may be more comfortable and say, if we stand a little bit further apart, I'm fine with no masks. I find it a bit stuffy and uncomfortable. So make sure you're aware of what they want. And that goes in both directions as well. If you're the buyer as well, then be aware of what the salesperson wants to do. So then you've got your maintaining of relationships. So organize regular catch-ups. It's easy while we're all at home and all separated to just sit at your desk or sit on the sofa or wherever you're working and just tap away at your work, clock off early, and just be at home all cozy. So organize regular Zoom get-togethers and attend online networking events. I know there's been a couple of those where they've done breakouts and you can meet new people in smaller groups, even though there's about 100 people in the room. And have regular meetings booked in. So with your colleagues or maybe your strongest people you've got a relationship with or your customers, book it in and say once a week or once every other week at 3:00 on a Thursday, let's have a half an hour just to catch up, whether there's anything to discuss or not. And also check in with people just on a personal basis, just see how they are and how their business is doing and how their family have coped, because people are locked down together. I read a stat recently, which is a pretty depressing one, saying all these divorces have gone through the roof. They're busier than they've ever been. Lawyers doing divorces. So see how people are doing and maintain those relationships. And prioritize video is an absolute no-brainer for me. Email is quick, but it's rubbish. People ignore it. There's no relationship built there. People hide behind them. So keep those in. Phone calls are good. They're better than email. But video calls the best. You can see the whites of their eyes. You can see things around them. You can comment. You can have a laugh with them. It feels as close as you can to actually being there with them. Again, going to the same study that I looked at earlier, people are finding that video over the phone is massively more successful. These are all 75% plus. Whether you're meeting others in your company, existing customers, prospects, or just vendors and suppliers, whoever it is, they absolutely want to be meeting people in video over Zoom and WebEx and Teams, because of that relationship, and you get that feeling of actually seeing them again for the first time. So a few of my final thoughts on those. I just wanted to pick out the main points. So the first one is you've got to keep re-qualifying these opportunities. You can't just be assuming it's all the same, particularly if it was a long sales process and you were speaking to them before lockdown. A lot will have changed. Money will have changed. Priorities will have changed. Their business structure will have changed. So you've got to keep re-qualifying. And even now, so much is changing on a day-to-day basis that you've got to keep checking that these opportunities are still alive, still doing well, and if not, what has changed? Just because they've changed, it might not be a bad thing. Maybe there's an even bigger need for your product, or maybe you could sell them more stuff because they need that additional service or those additional products. So make sure you're checking in with your customers regularly and saying, is everything still the same? Is everything okay? What could change and why? It is okay to call personal mobiles. I know we had a 93% poll on this one. We obviously have a bunch of people on here who are happy to do that, and respect to you all. But it's okay to call them. Don't be afraid. People are at home, but just check, are you happy for me to call this line? You got to be agile. You should be agile anyway, but in this time, so much is changing day to day. You've got to keep adapting to the times, thinking about what do your prospects want, and how can I provide that to them. And you've got to keep maintaining the relationships along the way as well, with regular meetings and as much FaceTime as possible, whether it's video or not. And as always, show your value. It's more crucial than ever. People are parting with their money less now, so you've got to keep drilling home your value and how you can help, and particularly in a time like this. So add me on LinkedIn. Let me know what you thought of this. Let me know what you think of some of my courses. I've got them all linked on there. So again, I've done a QR code. That one will take you to my LinkedIn page, so feel free to go there and add me. Find all my courses. I've got all the links on there, so you can see them. Don't forget that startup discount. Of course, I'm plugging my own courses. And Alex has said, we've still got another half hour of the session. So throw any questions you want at me. I will do my best to answer them. Alex, I'm happy for you to jump back on again. There you are.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? Last week I was wearing a shirt every day, and then I hosted Piers Linney, ex-Dragon's Den investor, and he came on in a hoodie, and I just thought, do you know what? I am on brand. Festival of Enterprise. There you go. So I just thought, I'm going to get a bit more casual after Piers rocked up in his hoodie. Although he was plugging crowdfunding campaign for bike manufacturer that he is a co-founder for. So
I feel like Piers Linney has earned the right to turn up in a hoodie to Zoom calls. He's done his time. He can turn up in hoodies. That's fine.
Can indeed.
But also, even that point, don't let it. It's more just don't get complacent. You should always be dressing to match your customer, shouldn't you? You don't want to turn up in a full suit to meet a marketing firm, and then equally you don't want to turn up in t-shirt and jeans to meet a bank. So as long as you're matching your customer, you're okay.
What does Lucy say? Boxers?
T-shirt and his boxers.
Boxer shorts? What the hell? It can't be right.
Did he get up and walk around and reveal that? Because that's been happening, isn't it? In the beginning of lockdown, there was that
oh my god,
that news anchor in America who was just wearing nothing.
Really? Was it Nathan says, you say your sales path is a long sell. I'm in a similar position in terms of new business and cold calls without a mobile number. What do you recommend as the best route into contacting them? I find email, LinkedIn is just too easy to be ignored.
It is. That's the problem. Email you can get as good as you can with. There are plenty of kind of cheeky opening lines you can do to get their attention and stuff. But really, you got to just prioritize phone where you can. If you're able to call their reception and just ask, I'm finding a lot of receptionists are giving out mobile numbers now because they totally understand that everyone's locked down from home. Beforehand, maybe it wouldn't have been okay, but a lot of them have said, look, we're working from home, so give out my mobile number if people want to get hold of me. So if you can call reception and just say, look, I'm trying to get a hold of Mr. Chisnell, can I just have his mobile number or some sort of way to get him? Then they may reveal that. But also somewhere I found that people put their contact details is if you go to their LinkedIn page and you click contact info, quite often they've uploaded mobile numbers and direct lines onto there, at least their direct email address. So I sometimes have a poke around there and see if I can find one. You'd be surprised how many people put their mobile number on there.
That's a good tip. That is a good tip.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I have found that the overtly salesy LinkedIn messages that then come in like a whole follow-up sequence have probably increased by about 3,000,000% in the last 90 days or so. More so like the last few months, I think. And maybe that's summer's gone, back in work in autumn. Let's crank it up again.
I think they're starting to get back to it. Salespeople are starting to really go for it again, because a lot of people were furloughed while lockdown was happening and no one was buying. But I think people they're back to it now. And with everybody distributed at home, as we've had a question here, it's hard to reach people over the phone. So I think people are hitting it extra hard and just going for that. But you can automate stuff on LinkedIn and email. And I think personally, I can spot a sales email a mile off.
Yeah.
Because it's just not personal. So I think keep it personal is the best you can do. For Terry, my thoughts on Sales Navigator, I use it and I love it. I think it's really good for finding the right people. So if you just, if you've got a new list of companies that you're meant to be prospecting, and they've got no details on their website, or you're struggling to find anything on standard LinkedIn Navigator is really good for filtering and searching for, let's say, all financial directors in Bournemouth in businesses of more than 50 people, who have 5 or more directors, like that kind of stuff. Just filtering to that list is really good. And then you can just export that, you've got it, and you're off. So it definitely saves a lot of time. It's not cheap. I think it's £50 or something a month.
Yeah. You're right.
But I find it works. I like it. And you can send more emails. And assuming you're not sending boring, salesy, blocky in-mail messages, then that can only be a good thing.
How often do you, in your experience, feel and it's going to be different for different industries, I'm sure, and different personality types, but follow-up email, because I'm always unsure about that. Because I got one yesterday and it was literally like less than 24 hours. Did you read my email? And I was just like, whoa, if you actually just connected with me and followed me, you can see I'm actually really busy at the moment. I'm literally online and live every day. And I just thought, ease up.
Yeah. It's different for different people. I personally, I'm rubbish at replying to messages. So when people are really on my case, it works because I actually reply. But some people, maybe you're really organized and you spotted it and you filed it and you said, I'm going to reply to that next week. And then they've been too quick and then that's annoyed you. So generally I think I read a report saying it's 2.5 days is the perfect, or the most commonly successful email chain chase time, if that's a thing. I think that said 2.5 days is the best one. But it depends, and it depends how heavily you're chasing as well. Yeah.
Paola, LinkedIn Sales Navigator sounds what I need now. Many thanks for mentioning it. Yeah, there's different tiers, aren't there, as to price points that you can get involved with that.
Yeah, totally. Paula asked about the style of wording and what approach we suggest for creative entrepreneurs. You've got to, it sounds obvious, but you have to show your value. You've got to think about what your USP is, your unique selling point. So what is it about your wall art that is different? Is it high quality? Is it particularly creative? Is it cheap? Is it, what's the thing that sets you apart from your competitor? If I go to Etsy and I find some home decor accessories, then why should I buy yours and not theirs? And then less is more. Don't write some 5-paragraph thing about how you use all these materials and you and your background and all of that stuff. Just keep it to the point and say, look, I do this. This is why it's good. This is why you should buy it. And keep it concise, I would say.
Yeah, good.
Hopefully that helps.
Yeah. And what about requalifying? Because you mentioned that earlier. Don't know what other people think on here as well, and how often they do that. But that's something that I've just started doing again now, with a view to I know the date that I'm going to finish before Christmas, which is like 17th of December. I've like got my last interview dialed in. I'm like, that is the line in the sand for me. I know when I'm coming back in January, etc. And again, it's something that I try to be super organized with, like, in a spreadsheet, and it's like, this is the last time I contacted them. For you, any tips for people on that who might not even have a system for doing that? But I think, as you mentioned earlier, it's never been more important because people's circumstances have changed, and some for the better. Like you say, some people are like, no, I'm actually in the ballpark for what you're looking at, and I actually like to upgrade what you're offering. So
we've done well out of lockdown, can actually have the premium package. There'll be some of those. Definitely. I mean, I use BANT mostly. So there are loads of different qualifying techniques you can do, and there's loads of different things you may need to know depending on your product. But for me, I use BANT at least as the basic, which is BANT, which is budget, authority, need, and timeline. So budget is how much money they got. Authority is, are they the decision maker? Need is, what do they actually want? And then timeline is, when are they going to buy it? And if you can establish those four things, then you're at least off to a good start. And if you don't know any of those four things, then you've got nowhere to go, because if they haven't got the money, they're not going to buy it. If they're not a decision maker, they can't buy it. If they've got no need, then why would they buy it? And if you don't know when they're going to buy it, if they're not going to buy it for another year or something, then it makes no difference to your target anyway. So those are the important things. But you can't just do that and then just forget about it, because, like you say, so many things have changed. Lockdown changed everything, and then even now, the vaccine announcement changed loads of stuff for people, and you've got all these different things that have massively affected people's priorities. So you should be having regular contact with them anyway, and then next time you're speaking to them, just sneak in every now and again, be like, oh, by the way, if they mention money, for example, if they say, oh, it's been a tough year, then make sure you're saying, have you still got the same budget to spend on this? Are we still all right with this price point? And checking things. And if their priorities have changed, then say, we were initially on for you to purchase this in Q1 because you wanted it to be in by Q2. Is that still on, or have other priorities? Maybe it's pushed forwards. Maybe they'll be in a total panic and have to buy it right now. Great, quick sale. Or they'll say, actually, we've got some other stuff we need to deal with over Christmas and the beginning of the new year, so this has been kicked to Q3. So you got to keep checking that people need it, and it's all still the same.
Yeah, don't you always love it when you go back to re-qualify a business to go, oh, we've just got a brand new, branding manager, marketing manager. So whilst they get their feet under the desk, and you're like, oh, God's sake.
Yeah, exactly.
They were there.
Yeah, you call for them and they go, oh no, they've left. Their replacement's here, though. And you're thinking, no, good things can come from that, though. Yeah, exactly. But when that happens, I say, follow the person, call them at their new business and say, congratulations on your new job. By the way, do you need what we were talking about here as well? And then you've doubled up. That's
really good. Yeah, you're literally doubling down on it. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Tony's got a question there. Any advice how to sell to the government or developing a selling relationship with the public sector? Specifically, software, as government contracts open for tender tend to be for tangible products rather than for software.
In all honesty, I don't know about the public sector, because I know that that's a whole different world. I've had salespeople, friends who sell to the public sector, and I know it's very different. I know they've got set budgets, and I know a lot of them who used to sell nothing all year, and then they do 4 times their target at the end of financial year, because all these businesses, all these government organizations are holding on to their budget, and it's a spend it or lose it situation. Tenders are very tricky. For tenders, I find you just have to make sure you answer every single one of their questions. Don't receive the tender and just do your own version of it. Just make sure you've ticked everything off so that they have no reason to say no. And try to talk to as many people in the organization as possible to just say, why would you guys pick X over Y? If I had exactly the same price and exactly the same product as the next one, then why would you pick me over them, or vice versa? And they may reveal something you hadn't even considered, like, oh, we want them to be based in the UK, or we want them to be available tomorrow, or something that you could easily deliver. So I would say just make sure you're doing that, qualifying it properly.
Nathan's posted up. If it's cloud-based, look at G Cloud 12. This is the UK government digital marketplace. Thank you, Nathan. Appreciate
There you go.
that.
Yeah, thanks, Nathan. Knows more than me.
Got a question that's come up from Samantha at Finding Startups, who says, I'm late to the party. Yeah, I can see we've had a whole bunch of people join since we've been talking, actually, which is fine. Thank you for joining us. I'm late to the party, so sorry if this has been asked before. If you're changing your pricing, how is it best to communicate that to your customer, i.e. 2 months ahead of time, notification on website, etc.? That's a really good question. And I'm sure, like many other people out there, I've changed my pricing. I'm in the business of live digital events and making podcasts for different brands, and things change, and you might have different. You might have changed your services, and you might be adding more value there now. So you've upped your pricing, etc., or the opposite might be true. So yeah, I'll hand over that to Miles.
No, I think you've nailed it there. I think as soon as you can tell them, the better, because people don't like surprises generally, particularly when it comes to money. So give them as much warning as you can that this price change is coming, and also make sure you're saying why, not just I've doubled my price. Because then it just seems like you're just trying your luck and you're getting greedy. If you say, because we're adding more services, or because blame the price of the pound, whatever it is you do, especially if you're speaking to people directly, then if they were to say, well, why does that cost more? Then make sure you have that reason, because people need that reasoning, don't they?
Yeah, and I think we've definitely seen a lot of this in the hospitality world, that when cafes, restaurants, pubs were opened up again until they were shut down again, that a lot of businesses use that as an opportunity to bump their prices up. And I get it. They've been, massively hit, and maybe their overheads have gone up as well, with reduced capacity. But there was almost kind of like a stealth price increase. Like, it wasn't communicated.
Yeah.
You walked back in and it was like, oh, it's £6 for a beer now, not £4.
Yeah. I like it when people just blame coronavirus for things that have clearly got no effect with it, and they just go, coronavirus? You think, why is that happening? Yeah,
thanks, Chris Barnfather, who's added a link there as well. This is great. This is what happens at normal live events. People help each other, and this is really good. So appreciate that, chaps and chapesses. So any other questions, post them up whilst we're still here for a few minutes. And for you, Miles, when we're talking about showing your value, what value you can bring to either brand new relationships, existing relationships, what are some of the things that and I'm particularly thinking of those. I'm just thinking of Samantha as well, with her business. With regards to startups, so people who are just starting out, maybe haven't got experience. They've literally come from being an employee to now, being an employer prospectively, and being the owner of that business. How can they show up? How can they show that value to prospective new clients, new businesses?
So do you mean as in to our prospects? How do we show our value to prospects? Apply it to them. Is my biggest tip. Is we all have our little pitch of our product is great because of X, Y, Z, but you need to be able to, like me as a prospect, I need to be able to visualize how my life will be better because I've bought your thing. So what solution is it to what problem, and what pain do I currently have that I won't have after I've got yours? And I mean, it could be anything. I mean, if you look at Rolex watches, how do they manage to sell them? Because they're just far too expensive. But everybody has different pains. Some people just want to know the time, and some people want to have that feeling every time they look at their wrist of I've achieved something, and also be able to sell the time. So it's really, what value is it to the person you're speaking to? So before you call them, you should be thinking, right, I'm about to speak to a manufacturing business or a recruitment firm or a law firm or whatever it is, and think, why would they want my product or service, and how would it help them? And then you can say to them, we help recruitment firms achieve more placements because our product does this. And you want to, if you can, I use FAB, so feature, advantage, benefit. So a feature is just saying it's a fast car,
Mm-hmm.
but the advantage is saying you get there sooner. But then the benefit is saying so you have more time or you have more fun.
Yeah. Or both.
But it's yeah. A lot of salespeople just go for features. They just pepper you with features and just say this is why things good. But you've got to actually do the benefit and apply it to them and say why will your life be different because you have spent money on this or whatever it is. So I think that's the main thing.
Tony's posted up the question: if I was hiring a salesperson, what qualities, qualification are most desirable, and any advice on the hiring process, such as key interview questions? And it's interesting, isn't it? I've spoken to that many people who've hired and on the other side started new jobs without having physically met anybody within that organization. And it could be a huge organization or it could be a small organization. It's literally just all happened online.
Yeah. For salespeople, it's a tricky one because there's no real qualification that you could get. There's no degree in sales. Well, there might be, but it's not one that I've seen. So really, it's just if you like them and you feel that other people would like them and they suit your business because they represent you and they're the face that's going out and speaking to people. So when people are meeting me, when I'm working for the company I mentioned, QuoStar, I'm representing them. So if I'm no good, then it kind of rubs off on the business. So if you feel that they represent you, then go for it. But also you need to get a salesperson with a bit of drive and they're willing to put in the hard work because it's not an easy gig. And they need to have something a bit entrepreneurial about them, I think. And not just talk about themselves the whole time. If they come into the interview and they just say me, then they're going to do the same in a sales situation. So you want to check if they're asking you the right kind of questions and applying their skills to your business. And if they've done research on your business to say, well, I've seen that you provide these services and I would be good for that because of X, Y, Z, rather than just coming and going, I'm so great, I can talk a lot. So I think that's quite a key thing. I had a really good interview question recently for a salesperson saying, what was the last deal you lost that was your fault and why? And it's kind of, people say it and you panic and you think, oh God, I've got to expose myself for failing. But everyone fails. I've lost loads of deals in the past that have been totally my fault. And sometimes it's out of your control, like Brexit happens and the pound drops, so it goes out of their budget. Sorry, that's just one thing that happens. But sometimes it's because you didn't follow up or because you were dealing with a time waster or something like that. So it's worth getting them to answer that to see if they are honest in that and what their response is. Because if you fail, then you should learn from it. And you should think, okay, I lost that deal because I didn't do the follow-up or because I didn't prepare for the presentation or because I got greedy with pricing or whatever it is. You got to make sure that they can learn from those mistakes and adapt.
And I'm sure Jordan,
there's a load.
There's a lot. I'm sure Jordan Belfont, the Wolf of Wall Street, has lost his fair share of sales deal just for his personality and his style.
He's lost a lot. Yeah, but he will have learned from those. And I really like Jordan Belfort as a salesperson. In the film, they obviously portray him as this total lunatic, and I'm sure he was at the time. But I've seen a few things of him doing the old "sell me this pen" stuff. And he doesn't fall for the usual tricks that people ask salespeople. He's a clever guy. I mean, obviously he's
forged another career, isn't he? Forged a very lucrative career by the look of it as well. Charlotte,
got a movie about him.
Charlotte Bowden says most sales individuals have the will and maybe less skill, which is great as that is what you can teach from experience anyway. Nathan McWard, who's an account manager for the N2 group, says with sectors like leisure, gyms, and those affected by the lockdown, should these be left alone until the next financial year and life is a little more normal? Or can you still put the groundwork in now to pick up with them again later? That's a really good question, Nathan. That's a really good question.
That is a very good question. It's going to come back. Leisures and gyms and all of that, it's all coming back. So I would definitely say keep pushing it if you can and offer incentives to say if you sign up now, then we can give them to you in the future. Or I know a lot of people have done really well off work from home. I've got a friend who has started doing yoga. She's become a yoga instructor during lockdown and is offering that online. And she was doing loads of yoga sessions online and building up a client base. And then now, well, not now, but there was previously and will be again in future, she was allowed to be out and about in real life, teaching people yoga. So she's kind of built her customer base for then when lockdown's over, they're all there ready. By the way, that's Jess Yoga. Look her up. She's very good.
and also, I know just from the gym that I go to, David Lloyd here in Poole, that whereas the first time they literally lost everybody from the staff, they were all put to furlough. Now there is a skeleton staff there, and I know the manager at my branch, and he's got a small team who is still employed by David Lloyd. So there are still going to be people there picking up potential sales opportunities. And the other, and I come from a health and fitness background in another iteration of me, so I know a little bit about this, but I also know, as Miles says, this will come again, but there's this time, the last 6, 7, 8 months, people have put a real emphasis on their personal well-being that we probably haven't seen since, I don't know, Jane Fonda in the 70s or the 80s, when, that was such a boom industry. I think, that time is going to come again when they are open, full time, and they can also illustrate, like our local one here did, that there wasn't one COVID case associated with the gym. And I think as soon as you get that, as soon as you get the vaccine, of course, then I think it's boom time for certain industries. Again, the beauty industry, you see, how many females you talk to and they're dying to get their nails done, they're dying to get a facial, dying to get their hair done. Me too, obviously. And it will come again. Certain industries are primed for breakout, aren't they? So I think, like Miles says, why not do the groundwork now? Why not tee that up? You might not get the sale now, but you'll be the forefront of their imagination come January the 1st, or whenever they open the doors.
But also, your competitors may not be doing the groundwork. They may sit there thinking, oh, it's lockdown, so I'm not going to bother. And then you get ahead of them, because all these other people are thinking, actually, this guy, I prefer this gym and I prefer this person. So, I'll join them when it reopens. So it's a chance to steal business.
It is. So Astrid, we're coming to the end, folks. So any last questions, get them in. Because I always leave this right to the end, and then we just get deluged because we just had a little wave more. But Astrid says, with a deluge of emails, what is the best one thing to do for an ed tech business that is a sure shot to be read and stands out in the inbox and not gets overlooked, apart from a catchy subject line? And I think, any thoughts on this is really helpful. Doesn't matter if you're in ed tech necessarily, but some of, because we all get them. Like I said, I've seen a 3 million% increase in prospecting emails, and some of them a couple of them maybe stand out, but I could probably count them on one hand, whereas the majority just some old tired formula, and I just straight away I'm looking at the next one.
Exactly. You probably don't even open it. So I know she said no catchy subject line, but you need that for you to even entertain it. I've at least got my email, so I need to actually click on it to open it. So I can only see the name of who sent it and the subject line. And if I look at that and it's clearly spam and I don't recognize the name, then I don't even open it in the first place. It might be anything. They might be saying, oh, no, seriously, you've won £1 million. I'd like to send it to you. And I've just deleted it. But I just don't bother.
Nigeria.
Catchy subject line. Exactly. I still haven't. Yeah. So catchy subject line. Other than that, personalize as much as you can. Make sure you're using their first name, and you're commenting on them, and you're saying, I saw on your LinkedIn that you XYZ, or any way that you can personalize it to say, I'm not like the other 1,000 people who have emailed you today. I actually have paid a bit of attention to you and do want to provide educational tech business stuff to you, and because you will actually benefit from it because of XYZ. Then I think that's the best you can do. But I always vote a good old cold call over an email any day of the week. So if you're struggling to get through to them, call them.
And I think, although you say apart from a catchy subject line, like Miles says, you do actually need them to look at that to actually get any chance of them even opening it. So for me, you do need to have a hook, call it a catchy subject line, but a hook to actually get me to click on it. And again, I'm not a huge fan of email, I have to say. deluge. So,
Crazy.
maybe Mars, you want to bring up your last slide just to finish up, just to wrap things up, because we're literally in that's gone really quick. I don't know if it's just me, but
Yeah,
the last half an hour has gone
it really has.
quickly with all the questions and comments. So appreciate that, everybody. Thank you so much for all your comments and questions. If you've got a last one, ping it in and we will answer it as we're finishing up. But I'll just get Miles to point you in the direction.
Sure. Is that up?
And find out a little bit more. There you go. Okay, so you can take a photo of that, use the QR code.
Yeah, add me on LinkedIn, and anything that you forgot to ask now, or you just want to comment on, or you just want to say hi, whatever, add me on LinkedIn, drop me a message. You'll find all my courses on there. Have a look at them. Yeah, get a LinkedIn Learning 3-month pass as well. It is pretty good, and it's not that big in the UK. So you can go on there and have a look around. Any practical quick tips for avoiding cold calling panic? That's right, Paola. Write down what you want to achieve, and write down your questions, and write down your plan. Think, I want this to be my opener, I want to ask these questions, and then I want this to be the result. And kind of almost build yourself a map, so that if you're on the call and it starts going horribly wrong, or you say something stupid, or they throw you a curveball, or something throws you off, then you can just look back at your notes and you can go, oh yeah, I wanted to ask this question. I wanted to qualify this thing, or whatever it is. And then you can get back on track and say, ask your question.
And I'm going to chuck one in here.
Yeah, or as Nathan says, do my cold calling course. Yeah, get a LinkedIn Learning account. It's free for a month, and watch my course on cold calling mastery. And then you will be inundated with business power. You'll be batting them away.
What do you think about these? I probably get a load of these as well, and some people have recommended some over others. Businesses that have a formula that, I will do this for you. I will guarantee, 30 leads a month or 30 leads a day, whatever they're promising, and they have a specific way of doing that, and it's followed up with, like a personalized video. I don't even know how they do these things, but you know what I'm talking about, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Are you for it? Are you against it?
I'm for it. I think, well, if we're talking about sending videos over email, I'm very for that. It's one that I've been sort of meaning to do but never have. But I know a few salespeople who have successfully sent videos, and it's been really successful. I got one, a cold caller managed to get hold of my managing director because on his birthday, so on my managing director's birthday, he got just a whiteboard. You could probably do it with an iPad, and he just wrote on there. He just wrote, happy birthday, James. And so there was the screenshot of just this random guy holding a little sign saying happy birthday, James. And how are you not going to click on that? You're just too interested by it. So he clicked on it, and it was a video of the guy saying, thanks for clicking on it. I work for a business that provides X, Y, Z, and we think it'd be really useful for you for these reasons. And people engage with video so much more than written. So I think those kinds of services are definitely good. I don't know the name of any. Someone told me recently, but I'm sure you can find them online. I think HubSpot might have an option.
I was recommending someone in Bournemouth doing that, and their thing that they used to do was when they did contact somebody for you on LinkedIn, it was a picture of the person you're contacting's a mug with their name on it, and it was like, let's have a conversation or something like that. And I was like, is that cheesy? Or is that actually going to get my attention?
It is cheesy, but cheesy works. Because also people notice personalized things, like with the happy birthday, James thing. People notice that because it's your name, and people are a lot more self-centered than they like to say they are. So anything that's focused around you is just feeding your ego. So you're going to gobble it up, aren't you?
Very true. Right. We're coming to the end now, folks. I'm going to dive off and grab some lunch before we're back again. 2:00. So we've got networking, virtual networking opening up in 30 minutes at 1:30. So you just head back to the lounge. Still feels weird saying stuff like that on an online platform, but I'm going to get used to it. And Jason is going to be talking about how to lead and manage remote teams. He's also giving away 50 copies of his book, I believe. So find out more about that. And then back again, virtual networking at 3:30 before I'm back at 4:00. With my old friend Samuel Lahan, former Virgin startup head of funding, now working with the Cass Business School and City University. We're talking social impact for startups. We're talking bootstrapping. We're talking about entrepreneurship. We're talking a whole bunch of different stuff. So come and join us for both of those sessions later today. And in the meantime, appreciate all the thank yous from everybody. Thank you for joining us. And Miles, thank you to you as well. Appreciate it.
Thank you for bringing me along, Alex. Really appreciate it. And thank you everyone for coming along and all the questions.
Okay, so just to let you know, exit is bottom right-hand corner of the screen to let you crack on and grab some lunch. And catch up soon. Thank you very much indeed, Miles. And thank you once again, everybody, for joining us at the Festival of Startups today.